Bought one?
Yeah. It was like a kit. It was like $100 or something. So I just was like, all right, I'm gonna use it.
Not with the code.
Well, yeah.
The code saved you almost $25.
Yeah.
The code Steve
Get,
Nickerack.
like underwear.
This Dominate the Diamond show is brought to you by Manscaped. Who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world? Manscaped offers precision, engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. That's right, you heard it right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men that have tried this product. Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed, and optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I'm blown away by the performance. The craftsmanship and details on the 4.0 are next level, focusing on intelligent functionality and incredibly comfortable grooming experience to make the me time the best time and enhance your confidence with some nice, smooth boys. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DOMINATE20 at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you later. And that's the ball game. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dominate the Diamond show. I'm Duke Baxter with Steve Nickerack. We're here at Zone Sports Academy, and we have an awesome lineup of topics for you today. Our purpose of this show is to help educate coaches, motivate players, and help give everyone the tools they need to dominate the diamond on and off the field. Today's topics were fueled by coaches' comments, demonstrations, and questions that they had asked us throughout the week. And we have a really good lineup for you. Let's dive in and let's go.
Yeah, guys, just like Duke said, we have 2 topics today. Normally we have 3, but we have 2 topics today that we're going to cover for you, both driven by questions and comments from you, and we're going to switch it up at the end and actually do a live Q&A session. So 2 topics for the day are going to be what causes a slump and how do we help our players overcome it. Second topic is going to be what are the coach's responsibilities during games. So those are going to be our 2 main topics. We're going to finish up with a live Q&A session with you guys. We're going to get started here with what causes a slump and how do we help our players overcome it. And Duke's going to take us away.
So let's talk about breaking out of a slump, right? The dreadful slump. We could be slumping as hitters. We could be in a slump as a pitcher. Maybe we can't find the zone. We could be in a slump at work. There's all different things people can call a slump. And what is a slump? It's a decreased action of performance, right? You're not doing well at something. So a couple things we want to talk about is performance over results. A lot of times when we're in a slump, we obsess with the results of what we're doing. We're 0 for 22, right? Oh my gosh, our performance is bad and our results are bad and we can't stop thinking about that. So what we want to do is we want to focus on the performance. We want to focus on the quality of our performance. What are we doing to get ready, right? If I'm out in a game and I go 2 for 2, well, I had a good day. But if I'm looking back at the results of, well, I started out 0 for 22, now I'm 2 for 22, my brain is still saying I'm still in a slump. So we want to make sure that we can control the controllables and control what we're doing. We can't control the result, but we can control our performance. Another thing is a famous quote by Yogi Berra. He said, you can't think and hit at the same time. A full mind is an empty bat. What in the world does that mean? Well, that means that if you're going up to the plate thinking about all these things, you can't hit. You have an empty bat. Your bat's not going to work if everything you're thinking about is my stance, my grip. I have to make sure that this is right. I have to make sure I'm paying attention to the ball. I have to make sure that my stance is. You're thinking about so many things, you're not even thinking about hitting. And that's the most important part of doing that. So your goal is less about thinking and it's more about just doing. The other one is the past is gone and the future is bright. What do I mean by that is you don't look in the rearview mirror and look behind you and you're constantly seeing what the past was like. Oh, my last 4 games stunk. I didn't do well. I'm constantly looking behind instead of looking forward. What am I going to do today? How am I going to get myself ready today? What am I going to do now that is going to prepare me to do well? So a lot of times that's what happens. The word slump is just a word. If you say the word slump, and I want you all to do that with me, say the word slump in your head, say the word slump outside, and you start going like this. Your shoulders start going forward, your chin starts to go down, and it's just an excuse. I'm in a slump. I'm not doing well. I'm having a bad day. Man, and next thing you know, it's this, it's that. Instead, get rid of the word slump. Say I had some challenging at-bats today. Okay, I've had a challenging week, but man, I'm ready to go. I'm looking on the bright side, and here we go. All right, so the key to getting out of the slump, Coach Steve's going to talk about right now, and that's the preparation and everything you need to do to give you that confidence to get yourself out of the dreadful slump. Coach Steve.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in creating a solid routine. I think that solid routines are what create consistency. Right? You look at batters, they go up to the plate. When things are going good, there's no swing thoughts at all. But the second things go bad, we start to blame everything. Like Duke said, we're blaming our bat, we're blaming the strike zone, we're blaming the pitcher making a great pitch, we're blaming our coach for teaching us the wrong things. We blame our mechanics. So I think a consistent routine is key. I grew up a diehard Yankee fan. I watched Derek Jeter for 20 years, and it was awesome to see him because every single game, from the on-deck circle to how he took his practice swings, to he would always get down, he would say a prayer or talk to himself, then he would walk around home plate, he would fix his batting gloves, he would go through the same process every single at-bat, and that's what created consistency for him. Right? It didn't matter if there was 50,000 people there or if he was just at practice. He did the exact same thing every single time. It got him into his own little comfort zone, and he was able to flush out everything else going on, right? Slumps happen when our guys get in the batter's box, and like Duke said, we're thinking about all the wrong things, right? We're thinking about our previous at-bat. We're worried about, well, coach already bumped me down in the order. Is he going to take me out of the lineup now? I have to get 3 more hits to get my average up to 250. We're thinking about all the things that don't matter instead of focusing on that pitcher that's standing 60 feet away from us and figuring out a way how to beat him. So when I talk about routines, I'm talking about our pregame batting practice. what's the purpose for our batting practice today? What are we trying to work on? I'm talking about when we're in the hole, we got our helmet on, we're looking out at the pitcher, we're working on our timing. The on-deck circle, what are we doing? We're taking our practice swings, we're loosening up, we're working on our timing, understanding the situation, what's going on, at that certain point in the game. And then I'm talking about when we get in the batter's box, our breathing, our routine, our visualization, and really just, honing in on a good, aggressive, confident approach. I can't say it enough. I think routines are huge for, not getting in a slump and then also getting out of one as fast as you possibly can. Because like I said, the second things go bad, we start to blame everything else going around us. Kids will change their batting gloves, they'll change their bat, they'll change where they're standing in the batter's box. And I'm just speaking from experience because I've been in slumps before. I've failed way more than I've succeeded. So I think, especially when I'm working with my younger players, I'm able to communicate with them that it's not the end of the world, right? You're going to go, 0 for 10. You're going to have bad at bats. You're going to strike out. You're going to look silly at times, but baseball and softball are games of failure. So we have to find a way to have a short memory, move on quick. I think a couple weeks ago on our show, I talked about focusing on the 7 versus focusing on the 3, right? The best hitters in the world hit 300. So we have to make sure we focus on the 3 times that we get hits over the 7 times that we get out. If we spend all of our energy focusing on those 7 times we get out, we're really going to struggle, right? We're always going to think negatively. We're always going to worry about, man, I had some really bad at bats right there, instead of flushing it, having that short memory, sticking to my routine and just trusting the process. Focusing on quality at bats is also huge. All right, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I had a player, this was probably 6 or 7 years ago. We were playing 13U baseball. It's our first time on the big field. He was our second baseman. He was the smallest guy on the field. So good player, really good defensive player. He was fast. He had a good swing, but he just wasn't strong enough for the big field yet. So I can't tell you how many times he hit a hard line drive, caught by the first baseman, caught by the shortstop. So at the end of the year, we looked at the numbers and he hit 098. We sat down at the end of the year, player-parent meeting. I went through the season with him, and instead of talking about the 098, I looked to the left and I wrote down, you had an over 500% quality at bat percentage. Over 500 quality at bat percentage. If I would have told that kid you hit 098 this year, you didn't get many hits, you had a down year, he might never have played baseball again, right? But we talked about his quality at bats. What's a quality at bat? Quality at bat could be working a walk. It could be getting a bunt down. It could be moving a runner over. It could be a sac fly. It could be, being down 0-2, fouling off 6 straight pitches, eventually striking out, but really making the pitcher work for it, right? So I instilled the confidence in him that the 098 didn't matter. It was the amount of line drives you hit, the hard contact, how good of a teammate you were. Fast forward 6 years, he's playing college baseball right now. And that was a kid that really wasn't one of the top performers at the 13U age group. And I know a lot of you coaches are coaching those young players right now. And it's important that we focus on the quality at bats over the batting average. And I'm also, a big believer in positive self-talk. I don't know if you guys saw a couple weeks ago, but Andrew McCutchen hit a home run and he was mic'd up that game. And as he's rounding first base, he's talking to himself. He's like, "You're the man, baby. That's what I'm talking about. You're the best. You're the best." And he's calling himself the best as he's rounding the bases. So it got a little bit of negative criticism. And he made a comment after the game that, I wasn't doing that because of my ego. I wasn't doing that to be cocky or conceited, but everybody else is going to doubt me first, right? There's going to be critics. There's going to be people out there that are telling me how bad I am. If I don't believe in me, then nobody's going to. So basically, he's just telling himself, you're the best. Every single time you get in the batter's box, you're the best hitter on the field. And I think it's tough. It's challenging for some of our players. I'll even ask my lessons sometimes, who's the best hitter on your team? And the second they hesitate and they think about somebody else, I'll tell them wrong answer. Because I've never met a good hitter that doesn't believe in themselves. You can be the most coachable, you can be the best teammate, you can be the best son, the best student. But when you get in that batter's box, you have to have a chip on your shoulder. You have to believe that you're going to beat that guy standing out on the mound. And if you don't, you're already starting in a hole. So, the positive self-talk is huge. So the 3 topics I talked about: routines, focusing on quality at bats over the batting average, and that positive self-talk, finding a way throughout the routine, the breathing, the getting in there, slowing the game down, and just trusting yourself and trusting the work that you put in will not only minimize those slumps, but they'll also get you out of them a lot quicker. So, I hope that helps. I think that's definitely a topic that a lot of players struggle with. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I remember my second year in pro ball. I was, one of the younger ones there, and a veteran, one of the veteran players. He was our shortstop. And I'm like, man, I'm hitting line drives, but gosh, nothing's falling. I was like 0 for 22. That's what I had said in the beginning. I'm like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. He goes, no, it's nothing. If you were striking out and you were 0 for 19 with 19 strikeouts, that's a different story. He's like, but you're hitting lasers everywhere. They're just getting caught. He goes, get in the batter's box and move 3 inches forward. It changes all your angles. That game, I ended up getting 2 hits, and I was like, I thought he was like a magician. I'm like, he goes, hey, when things are going well, most of the time you have to think your performance. If you're a good hitter, you're a good hitter. So you have to get rid of the negative talk and just kind of change something small without going to mechanics first, changing this, that, and the other thing. And next thing you know, you're like a robot up there. Instead, it's little adjustments that matter. So that's a personal story for me that helped me. So realistically, I changed nothing, which means I wasn't really in a slump. I just used that word because it was easy to use. And so get rid of the word slump and just say you're going through some challenging times. But that's what I did.
Yeah, and the numbers are always going to even themselves out. I can't tell you how many times I've lined out at a player. I'm aggravated. I'm like, man, I went 0 for 3 today, but I hit 3 balls hard. And then the next day, I get 2 bloop hits and an infield single. The numbers are always going to add out. For as many hard outs as you get, you're going to get just as many cheap hits. The numbers will take care of themselves. So, again, I hope that helps. We're going to hop right into topic number 2, and that is, what are the coach's responsibilities during the game? And Duke's going to get us started with that.
This is a good one. So the other day, I'm coaching a 12-year-old team, and we have 5 coaches, which is great because you need as many coaches with those youth age groups. But what was happening was everybody wanted to give their 2 cents and their input on everything that's going on. Everybody wants to position players. Everybody wants to talk to the hitters. Everybody wants to talk to the pitchers. Everybody wants to say what they think is going to happen. So those kids, their brains are getting filled with so many different things. So instead, we have it to where one guy talks to the pitcher. He does the pitching changes. He talks to the pitchers. He's the only one that can talk to the pitcher. We have another guy that positions the players. So the players are on the field. One person is moving them, not me moving Johnny to the left at shortstop and then Coach Mikey saying, oh, no, go to the right. Next thing you know, the kid's going left and right like he's a chess piece. The guy on the bench, he's a bench coach. He makes sure those guys that are up next, he makes sure everybody's on the fence. He makes sure everybody's cheering. Everybody has their own responsibility. So as a team now, the kids are hearing one voice in that situation, because you'll go to games and just hear dads and coaches and moms and everyone just screaming, and kids just kind of their heads just on a swivel. Listen to this, listen to that. And then you have to make sure that you're talking to your parents as well. Why? Because there's nothing more frustrating than knowing a bunt's on. You're telling the third baseman to come in to play in the grass, and then you hear his dad yelling, Johnny, why are you so close? Back up. And then Johnny backs up 4 steps. There goes the guy. He lays the bunt down. Johnny, by the time he gets to the ball, and you're just looking in the stands like, let us coach. Let us do the coaching. So coaches, make sure you're communicating not only with your other coaches and your players, but the parents, so they know what the expectations are. You're the coach. In the stands, you just cheer and talk and enjoy the game. But trying to coach and micromanage the game while the coaches are trying to do that and having a hard enough time with 7 and 8-year-olds listening to one person, it is challenging enough. So that's my piece of talking about the responsibilities is take the number of coaches that you have, give them a job, give them a responsibility of what they're doing, and then that'll really make your life a lot easier. It'll make it a lot less confusing for your players, and they'll have much more fun in the game because they're playing the game, not just listening to what to do and kind of listening to the game. So
no, that's awesome. I think the communication with the parents, the communication with the players and the coaches is huge. I'm also a big believer in that practice time, coaches, is our time. It's our time to coach our players up. It's our time to teach them the A, B's, and C's of the game, how to play, what the certain situations are. It's our time to put pressure on them. It's our time to challenge them and really push them and break them down and really work them. But the game time is their time to play. It's their time to have fun. It's their time to be a kid. It's our time to take a step back. Of course, manage the game, coach when you can, but we don't want to be a power coach. We don't want to be the guy, like Duke mentioned, standing in the third base coach's box, yelling at the hitter. You got to get your hands up, get your foot down, keep your head down, get your hips. the kid's thinking like a robot, right? We don't want to be the coach in the dugout that's yelling at the pitcher, stay back, get on top of the ball. You got to finish. You got to pick out your spot. Again, we're not playing a video game. We don't want to look out at the field and be directing every single individual play and positioning and where to flip the ball. You know, a couple of weeks ago, and it's similar to Duke's story, there was a kid playing right field, runners on first and second. There was a low line drive. He caught it. We had we had one parent yelling 4-4-4, the other coach yelling 3-3-3, one guy yelling 2-2-2 to double him up, the other guy yelling get it in, and the kid just held on to the ball. He didn't know what to do, right? We want to teach these players to play free, to play loose. Of course, practice time is our time, game time is theirs, and we have to let them fail. We have to let them fail to learn the game, you know, as they get older, develop a baseball IQ on their own, right? We're not out there playing the game for them. You know, we get our hour and a half or two-hour practices once a week. That's our time to coach them up. But when they get out to the field, we've got to let them play. We're not playing a video game, coaches, and you got to make sure we take a step back. We give them the opportunity to learn, to fail, to develop their own baseball IQ. And I'm also a big believer in asking questions, right? It's one thing if our player makes a mental mistake, if he doesn't hustle down the line or doesn't call for the ball or, you know, doesn't understand the situation. Well, that's a time that we can yell out. We can say, hey, we got to hustle down the line. That's a time we can put pressure on our guys. Those are mental mistakes. Physical mistakes, that's a conversation that needs to happen in between innings, right? It happened last week for us. There was a slow hit ground ball. Our third baseman fielded it with a runner on first. I thought he could have got the runner at second. He ended up throwing it to first base. Instead of me yelling at him, you got to go two there, I just asked him in between innings, hey, what were you thinking right there? And he said, well, there was a good runner on first. You know, the ball wasn't hit very hard. I didn't think I had a chance, so I wanted to make sure I got one at first. Great. He was thinking. He understood the situation. He knew there was a good runner on first base. There's nothing wrong with that. He's out there thinking on his own. Maybe next time he's going to play up a little bit, but that's a situation where I have to ask him, hey, what's going on in your head right there? He might have said to me, I had no clue. I didn't know there was a runner on first, right? We have no idea what's going on in their head. He might have said, I got nervous, I bobbled the ball and just threw it to first base. But again, we have to ask, we have to try to get inside their own heads because every kid's going to learn a little bit differently. Every kid's going to react to situations differently. Some guys can be pushed. Some kids need to be coddled a little bit. And we need to make sure that we get in the own individual's head, understand what kind of a player we're working with, and then coach them from there. Last thing I have for that is coaches take notes. Take notes throughout the game so that it's just going to make practice that much better. I talked about it when we were talking about designing the perfect practice. Take notes throughout the game, right? Your team might do a great job at rundowns, but you might do a bad job at pop-fly communication. We always try to leave the game on a positive note. So at the end of the game, we don't need to talk for 45 minutes down the line. We give them a couple things we need to work on. We always finish with a few things we did really well. We look at our note sheet, and now our practice is designed for next week. So we know exactly what we need to work on the following week. We can even send out a message after the game to the individuals. Hey, here's a couple things you need to work on at home. And you're going to start to see your team progress that much quicker. But, I thought Duke had some really good points there. Assigning responsibilities to your coaches is key. We don't need 5 guys all trying to direct and manage and play the game for the kids all at once. Assign coaches a certain responsibility, have them stick to that for that game. And I think you're going to see your kids play a lot more loose and a lot more free with a little bit less pressure on them throughout the game. So hope that helps. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, one more thing. That's awesome, Steve. Talking about the responsibilities and the communication. A lot of times, we try not to yell and talk and coach during the game. We want our players to do that, right? So we're trying to communicate so much in practice so that the players are then communicating to one another about what they see and what's going on. It's like that play at home plate and you're really talking to the catcher about whether you're saying cut or you're saying relay or you're saying, depending on what they're saying, instead of the coach just yelling it out every time when the ball's hit, coaches are yelling what to do. We want the players doing that. So in our game this weekend, we had the bases loaded and there's a ground ball hit to the third baseman. And he started shuffling his feet like he was going to throw it to first. Our infield was in, our play was going home, and he actually shuffled to first. The second baseman was yelling 4-4-4. He reshuffled, fired it home. We got the force out, and it was like, instead of the coaches saying anything, the players help themselves kind of communicate to one another, because we do sometimes get in la la land or forget what's going on, and all of a sudden something happens. So the more we can get our players to communicate and understand what's going on and understand the game, it really will help them communicate with one another. That's really gonna be effective as well. So try to really lead your players to, to be leaders on the field and help one another and stuff like that. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the responsibility. So I think we should take some live questions. We had in the past shows, we've had 3 topics and kind of look back through, and every time the show is created based on some of the questions that we have. So this show, we're going to take some questions from you, and we'll do demonstrations. We'll talk, we'll communicate, we'll do whatever we need to do to answer some questions. So we're going to look in the chat right now, and looks like Joey Bass is here rocking and rolling. He's always on the shows. So for the last 10 years, he's been on. So let's see what kind of questions we have. Is there anything specific?
I got one here. We got one from Coach Brian. He said, I have players that crush the ball in batting practice, but really struggle with timing in the games. Do you have any advice on how to get them ready to see more velocity during games? Coach Brian, that's a great question. I think a lot of the coaches out there struggle with players and timing and approach and seeing the ball in the game. So I think the best bet for you would be challenge them in practice. Create as much of a game-like atmosphere during practice. This way, when they get out there, they're ready. So first piece of advice, I would say try to do as many simulated games as possible, right? Have batters after batting practice, maybe face some live pitching in practice. Let them fail there. Let them work out the kinks and the timing and the mechanical flaws during practice. And then the second piece would be if your pitchers are throwing bullpens, have the batter shadow, right? And all that means is throw a helmet on the batter, have them stand in while the pitcher's throwing a bullpen, and have them just work on their timing. They're not even swinging. They're just working on recognizing ball versus strike. They're working on their timing. They could call out what pitch it was after it was thrown. And on the flip side, I think it's great for your pitchers because we get the same question about pitchers. Well, man, my pitcher in practice throws strikes after strike after strike, but the second a guy gets in the batter's box, he's all over the place. So it's kind of two-sided in that it'll benefit your hitters, it'll benefit their timing, and it'll also benefit the pitchers getting used to throwing with a batter standing in the batter's box.
We have a question from Melvin Robertson, 1126. My son's having issues stepping out as well as dropping his hands. Any specific tips on fixing these? Coach Melvin, how old is your son? Because we see a lot of times with the 8 and 9-year-olds or the first time player pitch that the kids are nervous and they're a little bit afraid. When the after T-ball or after coach pitch, they know the coaches, they know the dads are going to throw strikes, they get on a knee and everything is perfect. Kids get in there and they whack away. Then all of a sudden, when players start pitching, it's a little more erratic, right? The balls are flying all over the place. Kids are chucking and ducking and, bobbing and weaving, and it's hard to keep their feet set and in the batter's box. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll have pitchers throw live to batters in batting practice. We'll also have them stand in during bullpen sessions. So when the 9-year-old or 10-year-old is warming up and throwing to the catcher, we'll stand in with our helmets on and just kind of track balls. So sometimes it's just they're nervous and scared of getting hit. So we actually put them in this situation to get them a little bit more comfortable with that. Or we'll also work some tennis balls. And you want to talk about the tennis ball drill? Like that's a really good one. The smush ball drill with the...
Yeah, I had a little guy a couple years back. He was 10 years old, and he was petrified of the ball. He had gotten hit once, and he was just so afraid to get hit again. The only thing that was going on in his head was don't get hit by the ball. And then he was taking defensive kind of just like panic swings just at the very last second. And, I had asked him, I said, how many times throughout the season do you get hit by the ball? He's like, well, last season I got hit twice, and then this season I got hit once. I said, well, you're wasting all of your at-bats worried about the 1 or 2 times you're going to get hit all season long. So what I did with him, I took tennis balls, and then I took the Incrediballs, the squishy T-balls, and every once in a while I would throw a ball at him during batting practice. Right, I would hit him in the butt or hit him in the back of the leg, and I taught him how to properly get hit by the ball. And, it gave him a little bit of confidence. So he started to dig in. I'd throw the ball at him. It didn't hurt that bad. He stepped out. But I think what you see is kids, when they do step out, they step out and avoid the pitch the wrong way, right? They stand in, they open up like this. So when they get hit in the ribs, they get hit in the chest, they get hit, in the leg where it's really going to hurt. So we want to teach our players how to properly get hit, how to turn in, catch the ball on the meaty part of your body, and almost give them the sense of it's going to hurt for a split second, but this is how I properly get hit, and I'll be okay. I'll move past it. But, you know, mixing in those balls, teaching them how to get hit, before you know it, they're forgetting about getting hit, and they get in there, they're just ready to hit the baseball. But it's definitely, I think, a little bit of fear at that younger age.
We got an awesome question. I love this one. Coach Steve can talk to this because I think it could have happened this weekend, but it didn't. Paul Santiago at 1128 says, since we're talking about mindset, there's always that one team that no matter how good or bad they play against my kids, they're in my kids' heads. And it feels as if the game is long lost before the first pitch even starts. Since mindset was a topic, what advice would you give to get kids over this mental team issue? You know, about, man, we got that powerhouse team coming into our yard. Like, what are we going to do? How do we go about, you know, getting your team to dominate no matter what?
Coach Santiago, that's a good one, man. We played in a huge tournament this past weekend. There was over 40 teams in it. We played 7 games over 3 days. It was a lot of baseball. We were at the field from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night on Monday. And we knew that if we won our semifinal game, we were going to get to the championship, and we were going to play this team that beat us last year, and they haven't lost in probably almost 2 years. They're nationally ranked. They are a powerhouse. Every single guy on the field is bigger than us, right? They have a lot more arms than we do. And the one message that I sent to my team before the game was, listen, we've been out here grinding all day. We've put together 6 great baseball games. We're 6-0 at this point. And the one thing I can promise you is that these guys are showing up thinking that they're going to roll right over us. Right? They're not afraid of us. They're showing up thinking they're going to beat you. They don't think we have anything left, and they're coming in here thinking that this championship's won already. Right? So we're going to just take it inning by inning. We're going to do whatever we can to extend the at-bats. We're going to try to win the first inning, then we're going to try to win the second inning. We're not looking at the big picture, but we're going to compete for 7 innings today. Right? And we're going to lay it all out on the line and give everything we've got. And you know, the guys really got fired up, and I think it was almost you know, they were a little bit mad going into the game because this team showed up. They had the music playing. They were all fired up. And again, nationally ranked team, very good team with a lot of good arms. And our guys just competed, and they never gave in. And we kind of just battled from inning to inning. But we broke it up. We didn't just say that, you know, this is a 7-inning game. This is 7 one-inning games, and we're going to try to win every single inning. And, you know, we were down 4 with 2 innings to go. We scrapped across 2. Then we scrapped across 2 in the top half of the last inning. And our leadoff hitter ended up hitting a walk-off, or not a walk-off, but a 3-run homer in the top of the 8th in extra innings. And, you know, it was one of the coolest environments and coaching experiences I've ever had, winning a big tournament with a group of kids that really just never gave up on themselves. But I think it's easy to go into the game saying, man, we don't have a shot. These guys are good. They've got all the trophies. They've got all the banners. They're nationally ranked. The music playing, trying to intimidate you. But, you know, I tried to light a fire under our guys and say, you know, they're not afraid of us. You know, we're playing a bunch of kids that are the same age as you. You know, you guys earn the right to be here, and you got to do whatever you can to battle your butts off and make this thing a game. And it was really cool. So I think, you know, whatever you got to do, man. Sometimes you got to get them aggravated. Sometimes you got to get them fired up, and other times you just need to hold their hand and teach them that they have to play with confidence. Otherwise, we would have had no chance. So, Coach Paul, I hope that helps.
Let's go. Let's go. Matt Shirley, 1128. I have a 7-year-old coach pitch who hits the ball hard but has struck out several times. Now it's in his head to the point that he refuses to swing at the first 3 pitches and then ultimately just strikes out. He's afraid to swing because he's afraid he won't make contact. Coach Shirley, we see this at every age, whether they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You know, slumping, it's a great topic today because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to confidence. It comes down to what Steve was talking about getting ready. It's about positive self-talk. I had a lesson yesterday who had gotten hurt. She had hurt her shoulder. She's been out for 6 months. She's 16 years old, and she asked me yesterday, she goes, Coach, do you have any mental, like, hitting tips? She's a very good hitter that right now is struggling mentally because of the injury, and things just aren't what they used to be. She's not 100% yet. And I said, there's things that are important, and they're exactly what Steve said. The breathing. Look at your barrel. Take a deep breath. Take deep breath in with confidence. Exhale any bad thoughts that you have. Stare at that barrel. You get ready, and all you're telling yourself, I'm going to crush this baseball. I'm going to crush this baseball. And the more positive self-talk you can tell yourself, I'm going to swing at this pitch if it's anywhere close to the plate, and just whack at it. Get your son so fired up and get him to get himself so fired up. Whether, you take him to the backyard and you're hitting balls and he's getting that feeling. Okay, what are you thinking about when you're hitting those? Just kind of get him into that space of what he feels like when he's doing it well. Now he comes into the game and you're trying to get him into that same place. Take those same deep breaths you did yesterday. Get those feet ready. Get those hands back. Let's go. You got this. Instead of, oh my gosh, you got to swing. Like, don't say negative things to him. Say positive things and just keep on. It's a work in progress. We've all been there. We've all had those strikeouts where like, maybe that was a ball, or everything's looking like a ball. Nothing's we're just afraid to pull the trigger. So just keep on getting that positive self-talk in his head. Let him keep on playing, and you just stay positive, because it's easy sometimes as a parent or a coach to also be negative. It's your son, they're not hitting, and you forget that what to do and what to say. So I think the positive self-talk in that situation, and just keep on practicing and just get him feeling good about himself.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot.
I think that's awesome. The positive self-talk, as well as letting him understand he's going to strike out sometimes, right? But I would rather you go up there and give yourself 3 healthy, aggressive swings than take the first 2. And now all of a sudden you're just battling up there, hoping that, maybe waving at strike 3, understanding that if you swing and miss, that's okay. You take a good aggressive swing and you're on time and swing and miss, that's a good thing, right? You go up there and take strike 1 right down the middle because you're afraid to hit. Well, now you're just putting yourself in a hole to start the at-bat off. So again, letting him know what's the worst case scenario. You strike out, right? But you get up there, you get yourself on time, you take a good aggressive swing, you might hit a double in the gap. You go up there and take strike 1, you have no chance. So just like Duke said, that positive self-talk, as well as you see him take a good swing and maybe foul one off or swing and miss, that's okay too, because we're going to look really silly sometimes up at the plate. We're going to strike out a lot, and that's just part of the game, unfortunately. But again, pumping him with as much confidence as possible, letting him know, worst case scenario, you're 7 years old. You strike out, you're never going to remember these at-bats. But we put so much pressure on the kids. We do as coaches, as parents, their teammates put pressure. The kids put pressure on themselves getting in there. So we just got to find a way to work through that and let them know that go up there and let it fly. Swing that thing. First 2 strikes, that pitcher's trying to work ahead. Be ready to hit the first good one you get.
We got another one at 11:34. Fielding or hitting? Which one should get most of the focus in practice at 10 and 11 years old? Coach, both of them. I think that you have to take time in practice to divide and conquer. 6 guys are in the field, 6 guys are in the cages, or 4 in the field, 4 in the cages, 4 in the outfield, and you're rotating them around. I think that they all need a lot of focus at any age. There's so much stuff to work on with your pitchers, with your infielders, your outfielders, cutoffs, base running, game strategies. There's so much stuff to practice. So I think that in your practice routine, you have to make sure that your practice is scheduled to where there's a lot of stations, a lot of stuff going on, and kids are working on all different aspects. And make sure, I highly recommend that when you're doing fielding and you have them into their positions, do position-specific training, not just fielding ground balls. Make sure, yes, they're getting their ground balls in, but how to cover the base, how to go out for the relay, so it's teaching them position by position of what they're doing. Don't just throw them all at shortstop and they're all just fielding ground balls. Well, that's just fielding. But there's so many other aspects of the game that they can be working on as well. One guy's fielding the ground ball, he's throwing it to second, he's working on tags, he then fires it to first, that guy fires it to third. So it's like you have 4 guys in the infield, but yet you're working on 4 different baseball skills at one time. Then you have the cages and you have the tees, you have front toss, you have soft toss going. So those guys are all hitting. And then you have 3 guys in the outfield, over the shoulder catches, how to get under the ball, so many different things. So I think that it's all very important, not just, I wouldn't know which one to focus on.
Yeah, just like Duke said, I would focus on all of them. I would create as many stations as possible. And then as you get going into the season, like I mentioned earlier, taking notes to really understand what your kids are struggling with during the game. And then you're able to create those stations based on that. It might be pop fly communication. It might be bunt defense. It might be base running. It might be hitting. So that's where you start to do a little bit more simulated games. But I think at 10 and 11 years old, the kids are usually playing all over the field anyway. They have to understand different positions, different situations, moving, backing up bases. So as many of those things as possible that you can cover, I think the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see. We got a question that we really liked. It was so many times our pitchers, their pitchers on the team throw, and they throw hard, they throw strikes, but as soon as they go into the game, balls are flying all over the place, and it's like their velocity goes down 15 miles an hour. They're afraid to hit the batter. They're trying to just throw strikes. Do you have any tips on how to help your pitchers still throw with confidence and still throw hard when there's a batter in the batter's box? And that's at that 7 and 8 year old first time player pitch. Do you have any good drills for that one?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about working on the timing, but having batters stand in, I think is huge. I think mom and dad, if you're at home and your kid's working on pitching, Duke does a great drill with his son where instead of sitting behind home plate, he actually gets up like a batter and he stands like a batter and he has a glove on his hand. So the kid's throwing the ball maybe to a target and Duke will just pretend like he's swinging and he'll actually catch the ball. I think that's awesome. We've used, we call him Charlie Red. He's our big, red batter figurine looking guy. And we'll put him in the batter's box. So the kids are actually getting used to throwing with something there. It could be a tire, it could be a pool noodle, but something just to get them used to, this is how I throw strikes with somebody there. It could be a batter in practice. It could be mom or dad just catching the ball as they're throwing it, or it could be a tire, a pool noodle. It could be Charlie Red like we like to use here at Zoned. But almost getting them used to throwing with somebody standing there next to home plate. I think the more they can get used to that, the more consistent they'll be in the game.
This is awesome. At 11:22, Jay Coe says, I'm an 11U coach and I have done just what you said with my assistant coaches. The parents have been critical about that. They expect me to do everything with the kids by myself. What can I do to show parents that this structure works? They see me doing this with the assistant coaches as a weakness with me. You know what? I think that, parents see that the more confident you are and the more confident you are in your assistant coaches, the more they're going to be comfortable with what's going on. So I think we have to use our assistant coaches. Even though you're the head coach, that doesn't mean that the head coach is the one that has to run every drill. And I know a lot of coaches feel that way, like, well, my assistant coaches don't really know what to do. And well, then we have to educate them. We have to explain the drills. We have to take a little bit more time. We have to explain what we want them to do and how to do the drill and what we're looking for, and then have them run the drill, have them run the station. Because the responsibilities that we were talking about earlier in the game and in practice, we have to divide and conquer. Think of how much more fun a practice is when you have 12 kids, if you have 3 stations of 4, than if you had to take on all 12 by yourself just because you're the head coach and they want you to do everything. Like that's not an efficient practice. The other coaches, you can set up the stations to where they can run those stations and flip balls or put the ball on the tee and let the kids hit. And while one coach is throwing over the shoulder fly ball quarterback drills, and you as a coach, maybe you're doing some game strategy stuff yourself, but build that expectation so the coaches the parents understand that this is how practice is going to be run. Everybody's involved. Everybody knows what's going on. And this is for the betterment of the team, for the players, and it's going to keep their attention, and it's going to be super effective. So you as a coach, the more confidence you have, the more confidence they're going to have in you. If you show that you're not too confident or that you don't have confidence in your assistant coaches, well, guess what? Those parents are going to feel the same exact way. That's like showing up to practice with no game plan, looking around with your bucket of balls and trying to run a practice. Or you have a sheet that has all your drills, all your time, where your coaches are, what's going on, and you have your clipboard and you're ready to go to practice. There's 2 totally different ways, but that coach is ready and prepared, and that coach is going to wing it. So, show that same confidence to your parents, coaches, and players.
Yeah, and coach, it's impossible to do everything by yourself, right? I find myself in the game, my brother Mike coaches with me at the 15U level. He's managing the pitcher. He's calling pitches. If necessary, he lets the catchers call the game on their own. But if he wants to call a certain pitch, he's doing it, because my job is to move the defense around, talk about strategy, talk about situation, positioning. It's impossible to do it all at once. Otherwise, things will slip through the cracks. So, educating those coaches on what to do, how to do it, and then kind of giving them free rein. And, we're still learning every day, just like the players are. We're still learning. We're developing as coaches. We're trying to get better every day. But like Duke said, showing up prepared, giving tasks and certain job descriptions to each coach is just going to benefit the team. You're not going to be able to do it all yourself.
Yeah. So
I got one more good one here.
Okay.
One more good one before we go. Coach Sean says, my infielders keep sitting back on the ball. They're getting eaten up by bad hops, and they're not even giving themselves a chance to throw runners out during the games. Do you have any ideas? We had one great drill that we used to do when I was in college, and our coach would have a stopwatch, and he would say, we have to get the ball to first base in less than 4 seconds, right? That was a plus runner at the college level. That was a good runner. So a good drill that you should do is maybe take the fastest guy on your team, time them from home to first base. Who knows, depending on what age you are, let's just say it's 4 seconds based on the size of the field. So then what you do, a coach will hit a fungo, you start the stopwatch. From the time the ball leaves the batter's bat to the time it touches first base, it has to be there in less than 4 seconds. And your players start to practice a little bit faster, right? Another great one would be just have a player start at home plate. You hit a ground ball, that player runs to first. So now the kid is playing with a runner running down the line. And I think that's a great way to practice, because I see a lot of kids, they kind of go through the motions in practice. They'll just field the ball, they'll take their time, they'll throw it. And then game time comes, they have a runner running down the line, and now everything is just panicked and quick, and they make a throwing error. So putting the pressure on them in practice, the stopwatch drill, having a runner run home to first, I think is huge, because now your players are developing that internal clock on, this is how much time I have to get rid of the ball with a plus runner, with a slow runner. And, they start to develop that little bit quicker pace of play, instead of just flipping the switch when the game comes, and now all of a sudden I got to play faster than I do in practice. And another great benefit is I saw my infielders actually talking with one another. My shortstop was talking to my third baseman. He was talking to the second baseman. Hey, we got a good runner right here. We got to be quick. Or, we got the big cleanup hitter. We got time. Make sure we field it first. And you start to see the kids work with one another on that timing. And I thought that was just a huge added benefit of getting that ball to first base in time.
And let's take one more, because I like this one a lot. Any advice on player-to-player communication or encouragement? One of our better players can be a bit harsh at times. He comes on, come on, hit the ball, or you got to throw strikes. I think those are typical things that kids are going to say, because you hear those same exact things coming out of the parents' mouths. The same thing. Come on, Mikey, just throw a striker. We need a strike right here. Or come on, you can't swing and miss at that ball. It's like they're trying to be encouraging, but not saying encouraging things. They're saying what not to do, or they're, instead of what we like to say is to our pitchers, hey, Johnny, let's go. Just lift and fire. That's what I say to my son. I don't say, get your leg higher. Make sure you're pointing your glove. Make sure you're like, if he thinks about all that stuff, you know what he would look like trying to lift his leg up, point his glove? He'd look like this. And who knows what would happen? Instead, I'm like, all right, Tyler, let's go. Lift and fire. Put your eyes in the mitt. Put your eyes in the mitt. That means stare at the glove. And then everything else just falls into place. My focus is now the mitt, and that's when I'm lift and fire. So throw hard and hit the glove. Like or come on, Mikey, you got this. Let's go, explode to the ball. Instead of saying, come on, you got to swing and hit it. Like we're looking for the same thing, but just saying different things. So have like a little encyclopedia of word phrases that you want your kids to say to each other. Hey, when we want our pitchers to throw strikes, what we're going to say is, hey, pound the glove. Hey, focus on the glove. And that's what all the kids will then start saying to each other when they want to say something. They just don't know what to say. We said that to our 13-year-old team all the time. Like, why do these kids not say anything? They're not talking. It's the big field. There's so much to be talked about. How many outs? Where is it? Where the ball's pitched? Where's it going? But the kids don't know what to say yet, because they've only been playing the game it's their first year on the big field. So what do they say to each other? They don't know. So we have to help educate them on what to say, how to talk to each other. What should they be thinking? What should they be saying? How many outs? Hey, no outs. Runner on first place. Let's go. Plays the 2. The second baseman's going, hey, runner's on first. I got you. Shortstop. Here we go. Like they can all be saying something. We just have to teach them what to be saying. So when we want a player to get a hit, we say a certain phrase. When a pitcher's struggling a little bit, we have one of our infielders go out there, tap him on the back and, hey, you got this, Mikey. Let's go. We got this. We're behind you. So there's a lot of things. The kids just don't know what to say. So those kids that are maybe better, they know what needs to get done. So they're saying what needs to happen. He needs to throw a strike. Or, yes, we need to hit the ball harder. Come on, Mike, you got to field that ball. So I think we just have to help communicate with them on what to say, so we're all saying the same things, but in an encouraging way.
Yeah, that's perfect. I would just put my arm around that kid and say, look, you're one of the better players on the team. You're one of the leaders here. These guys are going to feed off your energy. So we have to just make sure, we pick guys up. we stay positive. And just like Duke said, we teach him what to say in that situation, but also let him know you are one of the leaders. You are one of the better guys. These guys are going to feed off you, positive or negative, and we got to do our best to, stay positive in those certain situations.
Awesome. So thanks so much. Thanks for joining us today. We'll continue to dive into topics like player development, communicating with players and parents, in-game situations. So keep those questions coming. We hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you next week at 11 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday. Go out and dominate the diamond.